NBC News presents a special report on the Russian launching of a second Earth satellite.
When the Second World War finished, the Cold War began, a struggle to lead the world between the Western Bloc, capitalist, led by the US, and the Eastern Bloc, communist, led by the USSR. After the New World Order that supposed the launching of the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the USA, the Soviet Union needed to recover the American technological advantage, to have international influence. That's how in just 4 years the Soviets produced their own atomic bomb. As it was very heavy, they needed a more powerful rocket to transport it. This task was entrusted to the engineer Sergei Pavlovich Korolev. In 1957, Korolev finished his masterpiece, the R-7 Semyorka rocket, 9 times more powerful than any other launcher created until that time. It was the first intercontinental ballistic missile, and it turned the Soviet Union into a world superpower. However, the R-7 wasn't effective as a missile, so it was used for spatial exploration. The success gained with Sputnik2 motivated the Soviet leader, Nikita Khrushchev, to order Korolev a new project to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. He only had 1 month to come up with a new project that would amaze the world. Sputnik2 consisted of 3 parts: the scientific payload, spherical systems container, and the dog cabin. Sputnik2 was the first spacecraft to transport biological material. It was a 4-meter-high conical capsule with a base of 2 meters of diameter. It contained 2 spectrometers to measure cosmic rays and solar radiation, ultraviolet and X-rays, a programmable unit, a cockpit temperature and regeneration control system, and a trial D telemetry system that could transmit data to the Earth during 15 minutes in each orbit. And in the central sphere, 2 radio transmitters that could send a continuous signal. The cabin for the animal was made of totally hermetic aluminium, 0.8 meters long and 0.64 meters in diameter. On each side of the cabin, flat panels with alkaline compounds that generated oxygen consumed carbon dioxide and water vapor. The cabin contained sensors to measure pressure and ambient temperature environment, as well as blood pressure, respiratory rate, and heartbeat. This is the feeder where food and drink would be stored. A small window was cut in the cabin, and it's probable that there was no TV camera. During the flight through the atmosphere, the devices and containers would be closed with a protective cone. Once in orbit, the cone of protection would separate. The Sputnik2 would be a one-way trip. There was no time for more. The doctors chose 3 dogs. Laika as a flying dog, Muka, a technological control dog used to test the equipment, and Albina as a safety substitute for Laika. Laika was a 2-year-old stray dog that weighed 6 kilos. Although she was originally called Kudryava, which means small curly hair in Russian, she eventually became known as Laika, a term that is related to her race, a terrier mix. Laika was picked up from the streets of Moscow just 1 week before the launch and trained together with other stray dogs, finally choosing Laika because of her medium size and calm character. She was subjected to continuous tests to ensure that she would withstand the conditions of space travel. Each of the chosen dogs was placed inside the cabin for a few hours a day to get used to the feeding system. In addition, they performed surgical interventions to locate the cables connected to the sensors of breathing, pulse, and blood pressure. It was also necessary to put a special corset with a receptacle to store the positions. The launch took place at the Baikonur Cosmodrome on November 3, 1957. Sputnik2 was launched using an R-7 ICBM similar to the one used with Sputnik1. After reaching its orbit, the upper cone separated, but not the core of Block A, which, together with the loss of some thermal insulation plates, caused a temperature higher than 40 degrees. Laika remained alive only a few hours due to overheating and stress. The Sputnik2 orbited at 212 by 1,660 kilometers with an inclination of 65.3 degrees and a period of 103.7 minutes. It remained 162 days in space and gave about 2,570 orbits. 6 days after its launch, Sputnik2 ran out of batteries and data transmission ceased. On April 14, it re-entered the atmosphere. The scientific contribution of the mission was scarce, although it was important to demonstrate that it was possible for a living organism to withstand the conditions of microgravity. Politically, it was a masterpiece of propaganda timing. The Soviets showed their technological power that caused great concern in the US and led to a great response from them to regain world supremacy. The Sputnik-2 flight exemplified how science was encouraged by Cold War politics, a trend that would become more pronounced in later years.
They'll pin a red, red ribbon in his hair. For being the only dog that's been up there, he'll be the talk in every town when that Sputnik comes back down, for he has been the highest in the air.